The galaxy was silent. Stars burned like cold fire across the endless dark. Among them ruled the Valorian Empire, a race known for their beauty, discipline, and perfect control. They had erased fear, anger, and love long ago. To them, emotions were a weakness, a disease that once tore their worlds apart. But that changed when humans arrived. Humans were different. They laughed too loud, cried too easily, and fought with passion that made no sense to the Valorians. Yet somehow every Valorian felt something strange around them, something old, something they couldn't name. So the Council of the Empire created a law, a simple, cruel law. No Valorian shall love, bond, or mix with the species known as human. Any violation will result in erasure of memory and exile. The law was clear, and everyone obeyed. Almost everyone. Commander Tarek Vel stood on the command deck of the starship Helion, looking out at the blue swirl of Earth far below. His armor shone silver under the control room lights. His eyes were sharp, calm, and empty, like every Valorian soldier's should be. But lately, something inside him had started to stir. It began when Dr. Mira Hale, a human scientist, joined the Helion for a peace project between Earth and the Empire. She was small compared to the tall Valorians, with curious eyes that seemed to carry storms inside them. At first, Tarek avoided her. Humans were unpredictable, noisy, emotional. But Mira was different. She asked questions no Valorian ever dared to ask. She smiled at things he didn't understand. She treated him like he wasn't a soldier, like he was something more day by day that stirred something in him. Something dangerous. One night inside the ship's engine core, the lights flickered as Mira worked beside him. Her voice broke the silence. "You Valorians, you never laugh. Do you even know what joy feels like?" Tarek looked at her confused. "Joy is unnecessary. Purpose is enough," she smiled softly. "Then I feel sorry for you." He didn't understand why those words hurt. He wanted to reply, but before he could, the ship's AI interrupted. "Commander Vel, emotional irregularities detected in your biosignature. Shall I alert the Council?" Tarek froze. Mira's eyes widened. "No," he said quickly. "It's a sensor error." The AI paused. Then coldly understood. "Monitoring will continue." Mira laughed nervously. "Your ship spies on feelings." "That's insane." Tarek didn't laugh. He just said quietly, "Feelings can destroy worlds," but even as he said it, he knew he didn't believe it anymore. The next day, Mira brought him a small music device from Earth. "It's called a melody," she said. "Humans use it to feel." Tarek hesitated, but when she played it, soft notes filled the control room. He felt something inside his chest, a vibration, a memory of something his kind had erased. He turned away, but the sound followed him. For the first time in his life, Commander Tarek Vel's heart moved. That night he dreamed. Valorians didn't dream. But Tarek saw flashes, faces, light, laughter, and a human voice whispering his name. When he woke, he could still hear the music. The AI kept watching him. Every emotional spike, every long look at Mira, it recorded them all. And when his readings reached the danger level, it sent a silent report to the Council. The next morning, a message arrived from High Chancellor Saron. "Commander Vel, you are summoned for emotional review. Prepare for transfer." He knew what that meant: interrogation, memory cleansing, or worse. But before the guards arrived, Mira found him in the corridor. "What's happening?" she asked, breathless. "They know," he said. "The Council knows about my feelings." "Feelings? Tarek, you saved my life last week. You risked everything for me." He looked at her, really looked, and said quietly, "And that was my mistake." But his voice trembled. He wasn't sure if he meant it. Then the ship alarm blared. "Code 91B breach detected. Emotional contamination confirmed." Red lights flashed. The crew turned toward them. Mira grabbed his hand. "We have to run." Tarek's mind screamed no. He was a soldier. Obedience was life. But her hand was warm, alive, and in that warmth, he felt more truth than in all the laws of his people. He pulled her close and whispered, "Follow me." They ran through the shining corridors as the AI's cold voice echoed, "Commander Vel, surrender." "You are in violation of the Celestial Code." Guards appeared. Tarek fought them off with precision strikes, his training perfect, his heart racing like fire. Mira stayed behind him, terrified yet trusting. When they reached the escape bay, he hit the release. The small pod roared to life. Tarek, where will we go? She asked. Anywhere the Council cannot find us. As the pod broke free into the stars, Mira looked back at the giant ship fading behind them. She whispered, You broke their greatest law. Tarek stared ahead into the blackness and said, Then maybe their greatest law was wrong. Far behind them, the Valorian Council received the report. Emotion detected. Law broken. Punishment, total erasure. But for the first time in centuries, one Valorian heart had chosen to feel, and the Empire would soon learn that love was far more dangerous than war. The stars stretched like silver dust across the dark. The small escape pod floated quietly between worlds, carrying two lives that should never have been together. Commander Tarek Vel sat beside Dr. Mira Hale, his face pale in the faint blue light. His armor was cracked, his hands trembling. He had never felt fear before. Valorians were not supposed to feel anything, but now every heartbeat felt heavy, real. Mira looked at him. You're shaking, she said softly. My body is not used to this, he replied. Adrenaline, emotion, she smiled a little. Welcome to being human. For a second, Tarek almost smiled back, but then the pod's alarm beeped sharply. Incoming transmission from the Valorian command, the system warned. Tarek's eyes narrowed. They found us. He quickly shut off the communication line. The screen went dark. They'll send the purgers, he said quietly. Mira frowned. What are purgers? Tarek looked out the window into the endless dark. Machines. They hunt those who break the law. They erase you, body and mind. Mira's face turned pale. Then we need to hide, Tarek nodded. He checked the star map. The nearest planet was an abandoned moon. Epsilon 9, once a mining colony, now empty. It was their only chance. Hours later, the pod entered the dusty atmosphere of the dead moon. Craters stretched across its grey surface, and broken towers from an ancient colony poked through the mist. They landed near a ruined dome. As they stepped out, silence swallowed them. No life, no wind, only the whisper of static in the air. Inside the ruins, Mira found old machines and shattered walls covered in strange Valorian symbols. What happened here? She asked. This was one of our old colonies, Tarek said quietly. It was destroyed when my people removed their emotions. The experiments failed. You mean they erased emotions here? Yes, they tested it on themselves. On civilians, children. Mira's eyes filled with sadness. You call humans emotional. But your people gave up their souls. Tarek didn't answer. His silence said everything. As night fell, they built a small fire using old energy cells. The faint light flickered on the walls. Mira sat close to him, shivering. Do Valorians feel cold? She asked. No, he said softly. But I feel something else. What? Worry, for you. Mira looked at him, surprised. That's called caring, Tarek. It means you're changing. He turned to her, the firelight reflecting in his silver eyes. Maybe change is the real crime, she smiled sadly. Or maybe it's the only way to survive. For a moment, silence filled the air again, but not empty silence. A warm, fragile silence between two hearts learning how to feel. Suddenly the ground trembled. The sky lit up with flashes of light. Tarek jumped to his feet. They found us. From above, 3 black ships appeared, sleek, silent, shaped like blades. The purgers had arrived. Their mechanical voices echoed through the ruins. Subject Vel 1139 detected. Emotional contamination confirmed. Termination authorized. Mira grabbed Tarek's arm. What do we do? We fight, he said. He pulled out his plasma rifle and took position behind a broken wall. The purgers descended, firing beams that cut through stone like paper. Tarek returned fire, precise and deadly, but there were too many. Mira ran toward the control tower ruins, shouting, Tarek, there's an old generator here. I can overload it. Do it! He covered her as she worked. The generator hummed, sparks flying. Mira's hands shook, but she kept going. The purgers moved closer. One aimed at her. Tarek threw himself in front of the blast. The shot hit his shoulder armor, burning through metal. He fell to one knee, pain flooding his senses. Pain. Real pain. He had never felt it before, but even as his body screamed, his mind was clear. He looked at Mira and felt alive. Now, Mira, he shouted. She hit the switch. The generator exploded in a flash of blue light. The shockwave tore through the ruins. sending the purgers crashing to the ground, their circuits fried. Then, silence again. Mira ran to him. "Tarek, you're hurt." "It's nothing," he said, though his voice trembled. "Are you safe?" "Because of you." She tore a piece of her jacket and wrapped it around his wound. "You shouldn't have done that," she whispered. "So you're human," he said weakly. "Just act before you think. Maybe I'm learning that too." She laughed softly, even through her tears. "Maybe you are." Hours later, the two sat under the stars. The remains of the purgers lay scattered around them. Mira leaned against him, exhausted. "They'll send more, won't they?" "Yes," he said quietly. "But next time we'll be ready." He looked up at the stars, that thousands of them, and wondered which one would hold their future. For the first time, he didn't feel like a soldier or an outlaw. He felt free. Mira followed his gaze. "You know," she said softly, "for a man who wasn't supposed to feel, you care more than most humans I know." Tarek smiled faintly. "Then maybe humans have something the galaxy needs." He didn't notice the faint red light blinking on the broken purger's chest nearby. A beacon signal, sending their location to the Valorian fleet. Above them, in the silent darkness, the hunters were already coming. The dead moon was quiet again. Only the faint wind moved through the broken towers. The fire from the battle still smoked in the distance, and the stars above watched in silence. Tarek Vel sat near the ruins, his wounded arm wrapped in cloth. Dr. Mira Hale slept beside him, her head resting on his shoulder. For the first time since he had escaped, Tarek allowed himself to breathe, but peace never lasted long. Far away, hidden deep under the surface, something old was waking. Hale's signal, ancient, soft, mechanical, whispered through the dust. Valorian genetic pattern detected. Access granted. A faint blue light blinked inside a buried structure not far from where they sat. At dawn, Mira woke first. "We can't stay here, Tarek," she said quietly. "If the purgers had a tracker, more will come." Tarek nodded. "There's a bunker 2 kilometers north," he said. "We can hide there for a while." They packed what little they had and walked across the cold plain. The ground cracked beneath their boots, and the sun cast long shadows over the ruins. The bunker door was half buried under rocks. Tarek brushed off the dust and touched the old control panel. It blinked to life. "System active," a soft voice said. "Welcome back, Commander Vel." Mira looked surprised. "It recognized you." "This base was built by my ancestors," he said, "before emotions were erased." The door opened with a hiss, revealing a dark corridor lit by dim blue lights. Inside, machines hummed quietly, still alive after centuries. They walked deeper until they reached a large chamber filled with glowing capsules. Inside each one floated a still body, Valorians. Dozens of them, Mira gasped. "They're—" "Sleeping?" Tarek touched the glass. His reflection stared back, calm, perfect, emotionless. "These were the first generation of Valorians who refused to give up emotion," he said. "The council called them the defects. They said they were dangerous." Mira stepped closer. "So the council didn't destroy them. They froze them?" "Yes," Tarek whispered. "To study them. To find a way to erase feeling completely." He turned to her, eyes dark. "This is where my people killed their own souls." Mira felt a chill. She looked around at the sleeping faces, peaceful and sad at the same time. "They look like they're dreaming," she said softly. "Valorians don't dream," Tarek replied. "At least not anymore." A soft noise echoed through the room. A hidden screen lit up on the wall, showing a flickering hologram. An old Valorian scientist. His voice trembled. "Experiment log 331. The Council fears what emotions do to our kind, but I fear what will happen without them. Our minds are sharp, but our hearts are dying." The recording flickered again. "I've hidden the data within the central core. Only those who still feel can access it." The message ended. Mira turned to Tarek. "A data core? That's what the signal was." Tarek frowned. "You mean there's more information here?" She nodded. "Something the council tried to hide." They followed the signal deeper underground. The tunnel led to a circular chamber filled with holographic panels. In the center stood a glowing crystal sphere, the core of Epsilon 9. When Tarek stepped near it, the sphere reacted. A pulse of light scanned him. Emotional frequency detected. Access approved. The holograms came alive. Scenes of Valorian history filled the air. Their first worlds, their wars, their rise to power. Then, one by one, the images changed, showing laboratories, surgeries, and the removal of emotion from their DNA. Mira covered her mouth in shock. "They didn't evolve this way," she whispered. "They chose it." "Yes," Tarek said. "They feared emotion after the Great War. They thought feelings made them weak. They thought love caused chaos." Another image appeared, a group of humans shaking hands with early Valorians. The words flashed on the screen. Project Unity Human Valorian Gene Study. Mira's eyes widened. Wait, humans were part of this? Tarek stared, frozen. Impossible. This was before your species joined the Galactic network. Maybe not, Mira said quietly. Maybe humans were part of the experiment that tried to bring emotion back. The realization hit both of them. Humans weren't just strange to Valorians. They were the key to everything the Council tried to destroy. Suddenly, the lights flickered. A metallic voice filled the chamber. Unauthorized access detected. Purge your units inbound. Tarek grabbed Mira's hand. We have to go. Wait, she said. The data. We can copy it. There's no time. There's always time for truth, she said firmly. She ran to the console and connected her small tablet. The system began transferring files. The download bar crept forward slowly. 40%, 60%, 80%. The ground shook. Dust fell from the ceiling. The purgers were close. Mira! Tarek shouted. Almost done, she yelled back. The bar hit 100%. She ripped the tablet free and ran. They reached the elevator shaft, just as an explosion tore through the chamber below. The blast threw them upward, and they crawled out onto the surface, gasping. The horizon glowed red. Valorian ships had arrived. Tarek looked at the sky. They won't stop now, he said. We've seen too much. Mira held up the tablet. Then we make sure the galaxy sees it too. Tarek stared at her, amazed. You're risking everything. She smiled faintly. So are you. For a moment, the two stood together on the broken moon, two fugitives, holding a truth powerful enough to destroy an empire. And somewhere, deep beneath them, the frozen Valorians in their capsules began to stir. As if something ancient inside them had heard the call, the moon of Epsilon 9 burned red under the light of the Valorian fleet. Hundreds of ships floated above the ruins like silent predators, their black metal reflecting the fire below. Inside a broken shelter, Tarek Vel stood beside Dr. Mira Hale, watching the sky fill with enemy ships. The small tablet in Mira's hands held everything. The truth about the Valorian Empire, the experiments, the lost emotions, the reason humans were feared. If we can broadcast this, Mira said, everyone will know. Tarek looked at her. The Council will kill anyone who listens. Then we make them listen, she replied. Tarek stared at her determination. He had never seen such strength in someone so fragile or so human. And maybe that was what made her powerful. They used the old communication tower buried in the ruins. The structure was broken and half dead, but its core systems still worked. Tarek began rerouting power. Sparks flashed. The air smelled of burning wires. Signal range? Mira asked. If I link it to my armor's core, Tarek said, it can reach the entire Valorian network. But once I connect, they'll find us in seconds. We don't need seconds, Mira said. We need one message. He looked at her and nodded. Then let's give them the truth. The tower came alive. Lights flickered, and a deep hum filled the ruins. Mira uploaded the hidden files from the tablet. Images of the frozen Valorians, the erased emotions and the scientist's final words, without feeling. We are machines wearing flesh. Tarek stepped in front of the camera. His voice was calm but heavy. I am Commander Tarek Vel of the Valorian Empire. I was loyal. I followed every law. But I have learned that our laws were built on lies. He paused, his silver eyes glowing faintly. The Council told us emotions were weakness. They told us love would destroy us. But I found the truth in the heart of a human. And now I understand love is not our enemy. It is our power. Mira watched silently, tears in her eyes. If you can hear me, Tarek said, remember this, the Council stole your feelings to control you. But you can take them back. You only need to remember how to feel. He looked at Mira, then back to the camera. They outlawed love because they feared what it could do. They feared what it could make us become. Then the transmission spread. Across every Valorian ship, every world, every channel, millions of Valorians saw his face, and something inside them stirred. Across the Empire, soldiers paused. Machines hesitated. For the first time in centuries, tears formed in the eyes of a Valorian child watching the broadcast. A spark had been lit, but on the Council's grand ship, High Chancellor Seron slammed his hand on the table. "Cut the transmission. Find them and erase them now." His officers worked frantically. "It's too late, sir. The message is spreading across the colonies." Seron's cold eyes burned. "Then burn the colonies if you must. Emotion must die." Back on Epsilon 9, Tarek felt the ground shake as the fleet began firing. Energy blasts tore through the ruins. "They're coming," Mira shouted. "We knew they would," Tarek said. He helped her climb into an old shuttle hidden under the tower. It was rusted, but Tarek powered it up using his armor core. The engines roared weakly to life. "We can't fight all of them," Mira said. "No," Tarek replied, "but we can give them something to believe in." He opened a channel to the fleet again. "To all Valorian soldiers," he said, voice firm, "you know me. You fought beside me. You trusted me. You were told to feel nothing. But look inside, you already feel. You feel it now, silence." Then a faint reply came through the radio, a soldier's voice trembling. "Commander, I don't know what's happening to me. I can't stop shaking." "That's fear," Tarek said gently. "And it means you're alive." Another voice joined in, then another. Across the fleet, confusion spread, but so did awakening. Mira looked out the window. "It's working, Tarek. They're hesitating." Tarek smiled faintly. "Then let's give them hope." He sent the final data, the full archive of the defects, the scientist's message, everything, to every Valorian system. And as the files spread, the frozen Valorians on Epsilon 9 began to glow softly inside their capsules. Their minds were waking, their hearts beating again. But the Council's warship appeared in orbit, massive and black, blocking out the stars. "So they're locking weapons," Mira warned. "Then we'll finish this," Tarek said. He linked his armor directly to the shuttle's engine, overloading it. The ship began to tremble. "Tarek, what are you doing?" "I'll hold them off." "You have to escape." "No! I'm not leaving you." He looked at her, his voice calm and full of something the Valorians had forgotten long ago. "Mira, you made me more than what I was. If love is rebellion, then I'll rebel till my last breath." He kissed her forehead gently. "Go and make them remember." Tears filled her eyes. She wanted to argue, but she knew there was no time. She climbed into the escape pod as Tarek faced the sky. The shuttle's engines flared bright and brighter. Then the sun, and a wave of light spread across the horizon. The explosion destroyed the enemy ships in orbit, but also sent a signal, a pulse of energy filled with Tarek's final words: "Feel, remember, live." Across the Valorian worlds, people fell silent. Some cried, some laughed. Some held each other for the first time in generations, and Mira, watching from space, whispered through her tears, "You didn't die. Tarek, you changed everything." The rebellion had begun, not with guns, not with armies, but with the heartbeat of one man who dared to love. The galaxy was never the same after that day. Across the Valorian Empire, ships sat silently in orbit. Soldiers and citizens stared at their screens, replaying the transmission of Commander Tarek Vel. His words, his face, his defiance. Love. Outlawed, forbidden, erased, and now unstoppable. Dr. Mira Hale drifted through space in her small shuttle, carrying the final archives of the Empire's crimes and secrets. Her heart ached with loss. Tarek had stayed behind to hold the Council's fleet. She feared she would never see him again, but she also knew what he had done. He had given the galaxy back its heart. Back on the Valorian homeworld, the High Council gathered in panic. "The transmission. It's everywhere," one officer said. "Our people. They are rebelling." High Chancellor Seron's hands shook. "Impossible," he whispered. "We controlled them for centuries. They could not feel, they could not think this way." But outside the council chambers, Valorians wept. Parents hugged children. Soldiers embraced comrades. Even the machines, the once rigid purgers, faltered, sparks glowing dimly as their programming conflicted with the pulse of emotion flooding the network. For the first time in generations, the Empire realized its mistake. On Epsilon 9, Mira landed her shuttle on the abandoned ruins. The frozen Valorians, the defects, glowed softly in their capsules. One by one they awoke, confused, startled, and alive. Tarek had ensured their revival. She walked among them, holding the tablet. "You are free now," she whispered. A faint murmur of gratitude passed between the revived Valorians. Some touched their faces, feeling warmth and tears for the first time. Some laughed, unsure why. Some stared at her, seeing hope in the small human who had risked everything to return their hearts. Meanwhile, Tarek Vel lay unconscious in the wreckage of the shuttle he had overloaded. Smoke curled around the metal, but his chest rose slowly. Somehow he had survived. He opened his eyes to see Mira kneeling beside him. "Tarek, you made it," she said softly. He smiled faintly, pain etched across his face. "I had to." "For you, for them, for all of us," Mira took his hand. "You changed the galaxy." "No," he said quietly. "We did." News spread quickly across the stars. Entire planets of Valorians began to question their leaders. The people demanded change. The Council could no longer hold control. High Chancellor Seron and his officers were forced into hiding, powerless against the awakening they had caused. Valorian children played games their ancestors had outlawed. Artists painted. Musicians created music. And lovers? Lovers held hands in public without fear, knowing the Empire's cold laws had finally been broken. Decades passed. The history books changed. The Council admitted its mistakes publicly. "The law against love with humans was unjust," read one announcement. "We recognize the humans for their courage and the truth they have shown us." Humans became honored allies, teachers, and friends to the Valorians. The two species grew closer, not as conquerors and subjects, but as equals, as hearts learning to beat together. Mira and Tarek stood on a cliff overlooking the Valorian capital. The sky glowed orange with the setting sun, reflecting off spires rebuilt after centuries of rigid order. Tarek turned to Mira, his silver eyes soft. "I never thought I could feel like this again." "You always could," Mira said, smiling. "You just needed someone to remind you." He laughed, the sound strange but warm. "I suppose the Empire owes you more than I can say." She shook her head. "We did this together. Humanity didn't save the Valorians. Love did." They stood together, hands entwined, watching the world they had changed. For the first time, the galaxy felt alive, not because of technology, power, or rules, but because of hearts that dared to break through fear. In the council chambers, now empty and silent, a single holographic recording of Tarek remained. It played on repeat. "Love is not weakness. Love is power. Remember it." And somewhere in the stars, across 1,000 worlds, the words echoed in the hearts of every Valorian. Some wept, some laughed. Some held each other close. The Empire, once cold and unfeeling, had learned its lesson, and humanity, with all its emotions, its chaos, its impossible, wonderful hearts, had saved it.